Yeah, we're live.
Oh, we are live now. Yeah, again. Pete, what are you doing with your light? Oh, there. Are you all right? No, you're very bright, Pete. Tone it down a bit. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
There you go. Perfect. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is Thursday. It is just gone 8:30, and it is your weekly episode of Mauls, Balls, and also you are all very welcome. I see Gregor Galway is straight in there off the bat with Evening All. Joining me tonight is Mike Reedy, and we also have Peter Martin, and also a friend to the show. He's been on before. Oh, hold on. I heard another little bip in my headphones. Who is this? Oh, it's Dara Weston, all the way from the States. Dara Weston, how the hell are you?
I'm good. Tired, but good. Right.
Whereabouts in the States are you?
I'm in a hotel room. I'm in Chicago. I'm on a secret IRFU mission to suss out the game for later in the year.
All right, very good. Okay, so folks, that's Dara Weston. Also joining us again, he's been on the show before. He's a great friend to the show. I'm not going to go into his entire career. I'll just say he's an ex-Ireland and Ulster player. Is Mr. Justin Fitzpatrick. Justin, welcome back. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Peter.
All right, good stuff. Now, are we all well in ourselves, gentlemen?
Yeah, we're all good. Good in the hood.
All right, good.
We're delighted that it's your birthday week, Peter. We're delighted with that.
It was my birthday yesterday. It's over. It's done.
You old bastard.
Okay, it's a birthday week.
But it's a week. It's a week.
It's no, geez, no. My liver would never recover. No, it's not.
Okay, your age, you extend it.
No, it's not. Okay, Justin, let me come to you first on this. The stories that are happening in rugby world across the media sphere and all that sort of stuff. Justin, let me ask you about this. I know we were messaging each other over LinkedIn about this, but just for the general public, your initial, before we go into how it's all going to work, your initial reaction to this or 360 as Mike Tyndall is promoting, due to start, I think, next September. What do you think about all this?
So I'm going to give an potentially unpopular opinion to start with and then quantify it, right?
Go on.
This is fantastic for rugby. I don't necessarily think that R360 is the way, the light, and the truth, but I think the concept or the proposition of the concept is a fantastic one. And why I say that is to me, that's another temple marker as to where rugby is and where it's going. So over the last 24, 36 months, we've had CVS put in tens of millions, hundreds of millions into URC, Six Nations, Premiership Rugby, right? It's private equity. We've seen the like of Eddie Jordan, God rest his soul, put money in to London Irish. There's a lot of outside interest and money coming into rugby or looking at the opportunity. That says to me that we have arrived. Right, that we're going. That people see the opportunity from us to go from being, and I say niche in the nicest possible term, but into real global prominence, right? And that's what this says to me. Now, whether the idea has legs, and we'll get into it, but as a concept, to make this work, as it's said as I'm sure we've all read in the press, they're talking about 12 stops, 8 men's teams, 4 women's teams, Tokyo, LA, Sao Paulo, all around the world in a sort of a global Grand Prix with, talking about £1 million per player. Right. And if you look at where that sort of equates to at the moment, well, that's your top players in Super Rugby, URC, Premiership, top 14 are earning between URC. I think that, and again, it's speculation. I'm sure it's not 100% accurate, but let's just say it is. For your top player in URC, just with a quick Google search, is about 850,000. I think it was pounds, right? And going through to in and around, Finn Russell in the the Premiership in around 1 million. Owen Farrell in the top 14, 1 million and change, and and other players. Right, so to have a whole squad in and around there, and I'm sure it'll be tiered more or less, right? That's a game-changing opportunity. Do I think this comes off? No, but again, I think it awakens the possibility and of what is possible within our sport. And there's an old saying, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. And we look at where we are now is a direct correlation between what happened in the mid-90s with Kerry Packer, right? It was an amateur game going into the 95 World Cup, and he came in and saw an opportunity and said, right, I'm going to hire 900 of the best players and we're going to have a global Grand Prix for his TV channel. And it was pushed back. It was very popular for the same reasons, that players weren't earning any money and they were going to earn some money and they were going to get to professionalize and they were going to be distributed around the world for all these different teams. This is similar. The pushback to that was Super Rugby and the Tri Nations were created with Foxtel, which was his rival in Australia. And I think there was over 10 years, $555 million put into rugby, which revolutionized the game in the Southern Hemisphere. So I think we're at a moment in time where this and other events could potentially be the catalyst for our union, other unions, other leagues, to really commercialize themselves to meet the challenge and the opportunities that are currently available. Does that make sense?
It does. Why don't you think this will work?
I mean, it could work, but I based on what I've read, and it's and the individuals that are involved, this is a disruptive play, right? They're looking to capitalize on the opportunity and the potential the sport has, right? And it has massive opportunity globally. But they're also rugby guys, so they want to work with World Rugby and work within the union structure. So for this to work within those parameters, they need a sponsor union, right? And they need World Rugby to recognise them, right? Whereas Kerry Packer was just going to do his own thing and outside of the auspice of World Rugby. Is my understanding and recollection of it. So, there's an old saying, turkeys don't vote for Christmas, right? Are the unions going to hand over power to a private enterprise? Maybe, depending on what the upside is for them. But I'm inclined to think not, right?
Yeah.
But as a temple marker, I think this is a challenge to the natural order and hopefully a catalyst to commercialize the game faster than it currently has been doing. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Justin. Good points and well made. Dara Weston, your thoughts on this R360 and what Mike Tyndall is trying to promote along with his
to quote the famous Bill Beaumont, show me the money. Okay, so firstly, where's the money coming from? I suspect we know where it's coming from similar sources to Live Golf. Secondly, they're proposing, as Justin said, to play these 16-round tournaments, round the globe. Or sorry, I think it's 12 tournaments, 16 tournaments.
12 franchise teams.
12 franchise teams. Sorry, yeah, 8 male team, 4 women's teams, and 16 tournaments. And they're proposing to play these between April and June, and August and September.
Yeah.
So April and June, URC Champions Cup final. Like, you're not going to have, this is the thing, you're not going to have enough of a season to contract players for the whole year, because they're only going to be playing 3-4 months out of the year if they're only playing April to June and August, September. So if you're looking to attract players from the Northern Hemisphere, certainly, and the SAFAs, you're talking about conflicting with the end of the URC season and the end of the Champions League season. Then August, September, you're okay. Well, it's you're taking players from the off season when
But
they should.
that's Super Rugby season, though, Darren.
Yeah. So, but Northern Hemisphere, it's off season. But yeah,
Yeah,
Super
yeah.
Rugby. So that's where I find it confusing. What are they trying to do? Are they trying to recruit players on like a part-time contract basis where they come in for the odd game and then they dip back out again? Because there doesn't seem to be a proper season structure around it. It's going to be a kind of an itinerant tour where they go to all the different cities. Also, I mean, is that going to kill sevens now? Because, I mean, we already have the sevens reduced to the 8 teams. If you have global superstar, 15s teams coming and playing in these competitions, knockout competitions in these worldwide cities, is that going to kill off sevens? So I don't know, just the kind of the structure of it. And, okay, we're only getting limited info on it. But from what's initially been said, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see how, as a player, it could be sustainable. Because as a player, you want to be playing, kind of week in, week out, to maximize your international caps, things like that. And even just keep your fitness levels up. I mean, you can go to the gym, sure, the 6 months you're not playing, or you can sign a deal with another club to go in for 6 months or something like that. But, I don't see how it's, apart from being massive cash, I don't see how it would work from the player point of view.
Okay, thanks, Dara. Mike Reedy, your thoughts on this super duper shiny golden new?
First of all, can I clarify something? As I'm not as well versed on it as you guys. Is this international? Are we talking about international teams playing against each other or club sides?
Okay, Mike, I'll read to you what exactly the description of it, right?
Mike, if you have 500,000, you can have the Reedy Ranters.
Yeah, there you go.
You can have your own club.
Okay, Mike, and everyone. What exactly is OR360? Okay, I'm not going to read this all because it goes on a bit. OR360 is being billed as the Grand Prix style global league for rugby union. The concept envisions 12 franchise teams, 8 men's teams, and 4 women's teams, as Justin said, drawn from the world's top talent. Rather than a traditional home and away season, OR360 will be a travelling circuit, matches staged in a different major city each week over a 14 to 6 week season. For example, blah, 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 blah. The idea is to turn each round into a festival-like event, supplementing the rugby with concerts and entertainment to create a Super Bowl moment for sport.
So if you think of that, DuPont could basically play for France and then play OR360 outside of the Six Nations.
So these are all newly created
not needed clubs.
Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
And if you do it that way, you're talking about a player playing 22 to 23 games. If he's playing all the internationals, 3 or 4 in the autumn, 3 in the Six Nations, plus this, and it's complementary. So I agree with you, Dara. It's a little bit difficult from a traditional mindset where we go September through to sort of April, May, June sort of schedule. But as a concept, it's there's enough rugby there.
Yeah. But there's going to be kind of like a 6-month gap from when they finish in August to when, say, players start playing Six Nations.
For sure.
Or if they're just
obvious
playing OR360, there's going to be an 8-month gap.
For sure.
When they start again in April.
Okay, go on. Mike, I asked you, go on.
Is there not an already obvious problem then that all these players that they're talking about contracting are already currently in contracts to club sides? I know you're talking about money there, Dara, but you still have a contract, and if you're contracted to Leinster, are Leinster going to allow you to go off fucking twaddle off for 10 or 12 games or something?
It's more so the IRFU, Mike. It's not Leinster. It's
I'm just talking about Leinster as an entity, or any of the 4 sides.
I think it
how
must
would
be
you
like
pick,
the live golf thing, Mike, that they'll just say, listen, 5 million and we'll take, Ken Doris off your hands. And the IRFU will go, okay, but we can still have him for the Six Nations, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
See,
Sorry, Mike, go on.
There's just too many ifs and buts to this for me. And do you know what? There's absolutely zero doubt the sport needs finance, needs money, especially like there are certain unions that definitely, like, it's two in the southern hemisphere. Australia and New Zealand are both in financial difficulties, and outside of Ireland, and Ireland is starting to show a little bit of vulnerability now as well. France, I mean, England is in a bit of peril. Scotland is pretty okay, but there's only 2 teams. Wales is fucking on its arse. So,
yeah,
the sport definitely needs a financial boost.
But is this the way to do it, Mike? Is this?
I don't think so. No. Do you know another thing? We're all frightened of change. We're all like, when something changes, we're all thinking, oh my God, leave things alone and stuff like that. But by and large, they generally tend to work out. Like, when the Pro 12 became the Pro, or the top Pro 14 or whatever it was, they're like, where we had a Celtic League, then we had the 12, and then we had the South Africans, and we were all thinking, why the fuck do we want them? And well, I still think that, but anyway, that's another thing. But anyway, we are a little bit frightened of change, I think. But there's absolutely zero doubt the sport needs a financial boost to come from somewhere, and I don't know what the answer is. This is something somebody is wanting to try. Maybe we should give it a go and see where it takes us.
All right, I'll come back to you on that, Mike, because I have a backup question on that. Peter Martin, patiently waiting there. Your thoughts on this or 360 and where it will bring our sport?
Well, I was just taking a few notes there, just as regards, what it's about. I think the way it is, for me, I think it's a kite flying thing. It's a kite flying exercise by those involved, because they're looking at, as has been mentioned already, the finances. We're led to believe, or we're making an educated guess as regards where the money's coming from. And we're all in agreement. I think we all acknowledge the fact that there is a financial issue in the game. It does need what it needs is if there was a TV network to get in behind it and get coverage, because at the end of the day, if it's targeting areas and places and venues around the world where the game is not doing so good, or where there's a great growth area, it'll need it'll need exposure to make it work. Just thinking out loud, then, as regards the scheduling and that, my own opinion about the URC is that the season that the URC is far too bloody long. Like the Champions Cup is done now. What is it? 3 weeks now at this stage? 3-4 weeks, almost coming up in a month. And yet we're still getting into we're in the final stages of the URC. Like, for me, the URC shouldn't be even this far ahead. It should be done and dusted pretty much, we'll say, April into May, with the Champions Cup being the pinnacle of the season, and then just drawing a line under and move on. I just wonder, given the fact that, you're talking about how it's supposed to happen, in the late spring, early summer, and then late summer, early autumn. The early autumn is where the Rugby Championship basically kicks off again. But I'm just wondering, is there room there for manoeuvre where, if the South African game, if these teams are going to be freshly made franchises, well, then what I'm about to say next makes fuck all difference. But I'm just thinking, if it was a case that you had South African teams that were due to play, we'll say Leinster or whatever, and Leinster involved, would that be basically like it counts? You're killing two birds with one stone insofar as the game is played, but it counts for points in one competition, but also within the franchise competition, the Rugby 360. So it's a game. It counts for 2 competitions. In much the same way, and I'm using a probably slightly shit example, but the Interpros, we still have the good old Interpros in Ireland, but they're included in the URC. Is there room to do something like that with Rugby 360, whereby you're incorporating certain matches in a schedule, and they count as, we'll say, points for the R360, but they're also it's a double header for for 2 competitions. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think, Pete. Sorry to interrupt you. I think, Pete, the way they're selling this is they want it completely separate to everything.
Yeah.
To everything.
Yeah. But I do think, in saying that, I think this will get the attention of the unions and those who are in financial straits and say, hang on, it's half shit what they're saying. It's half bullshit what they're saying, but the other half is, hang on a minute, is there room to do something with this? That's what I'm thinking. There could be something. There could be
the only fault I see in what you're saying, Pete, is that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just the bones. The bones of a good idea could be there.
Yeah,
and I think the fact that the likes of Tyndall is there as well, possibly from a player welfare perspective, he will certainly be. I would imagine he would be kind of half mindful of it. He's not a TV executive who's just there, who's purely, and I mean purely there about the money and the clicks and the viewership. And
he's there about the money. He's an ex-player. He's riding the fucking Royal.
He's married to her, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I know he is. Yeah, he's still riding her as well. So who cares?
Probably not if they're married. No.
Well, probably not. No. Okay. Before we move on, Justin,
can I just make one point?
Yeah, of course, can, Darry.
What Peter said there about could you have that the points count for both? The one problem I can see with that is that's going to dilute the TV income then.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you have that the R360 game also counts as part of the URC game, then the URC aren't going to get that TV money because the R360 will already have it.
Well,
even the same, because it's going to be a traveling circus, the individual clubs aren't going to get ticket sales.
Yeah, but you also have the problem about that.
Well, I'll tell you, gents. Now, I'm just going to read. This is from Mike Tyndall's feed. This is what he said about it and his justification for it. He says rugby is feeling the fallout of the last few years. No shit, Mike. With financial mismanagement, declining investment in the club game, and a product that is struggling to evolve. I think you could probably throw COVID in there as well. That kind of knocked us on his arse. Clubs around the world are feeling the strain and are being propped up by the international game. I'd agree with him there, yes. Rugby's lack of innovation and ability to change risks losing its appeal to new audiences and its younger market, right? That's Mike Tyndall, right? I kind of agree with one or two points he's made.
Does he go on to say, I've been offered a load of money to run this and be the face of this competition? And
I'm a shareholder, blah, blah, blah.
Well, okay. Going by some of the venues, that would hold up what he's saying. I mean, you're talking about having some in the new camp in Spain. You're Tottenham Hotspur football ground, Los Angeles
Park, and all that sort of stuff.
So like it is going to be a big stadia that holds obviously lots of supporters. So
yeah, but then they're also going to go to LA and places which is going to take the sevens out of it.
Absolutely,
so
I think
it'll kill the sevens too.
Why the sevens?
Okay, just to say hello to a few people who are watching. Gregor Galway, as I said, Bevan, Gregor. Ian Gilbert is watching. There's Ian there. Ian is watching from Madrid. Alan Dorman. Hi, Alan. Megan Augusta is also watching.
Augusta Timoney now. She's hyphenated it.
Yeah, Elle Willoughby. Elle, how are you? Evening, chaps. Hello, Elle. How are you? Matt Boland. What is Matt saying? Hello, men, and welcome back, Justin. There you go. Welcome back, Justin, indeed. Bev Anne-Marie, I think the normal teams would suffer a lot with the 360 schedule. I would tend to agree with you. Yes, Mikey Meany, more games, just what's needed. Yeah, all right.
There's a bit of irony in that, or a bit of.
There is a bit of irony in that. All right, yes. Yeah. Okay, all right. Justin. Okay, moving on from that. That's fair enough. Okay, we made our point about that. One thing, Justin, I want to ask you, but you being the ex-player at a high level, I saw a few things about this. Now, this was not on the list. I just saw this. Bernard Jackman was talking about this, Justin. Leinster's loss to Northampton, and then their lackluster performance against Scarlets. Is there a hangover type thing with Leinster? Now, it's a mindset. He was saying that mentally Leinster haven't recovered from that Northampton loss. You've been there, Justin. You've ran out onto the pitch. You played for club and country. What do you think Leinster's issue is? Because they haven't really fired over the last couple of games, and I think the Northampton loss, I think, seems to have exacerbated that.
For sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I'm sure at the beginning of the year when they did their objectives that they wanted to win both competitions. I mean, I think that would be a very reasonable assumption to make. And, they came up short against Northampton. That can happen. I don't say it's all doom and gloom because, they didn't fire as well as they could do in one final. And the thing about it, they've been winning since last weekend. Difficult one to get up for, playing the Scarlets. I mean, they've they're expected to win. All right. Not a huge crowd, but they got the job done. They're going to have to be better this weekend against Glasgow, but I have every confidence that they will be. I think it's a mark of a good team that keeps on winning, even if they're not playing that well. And I think Leinster are very much a victim of their own success over the last X amount of years in terms of our expectation from them. Right, no team is excellent week after week, so if they can, pull a result out this weekend and go to a final, and anything can happen there afterwards. And they've got the players, right? And they've got the willing mentality to do it. So I'll be interested to see how they perform.
But what about the importance though, Justin? And I'm asking you because you've been there. I'm going to ask everyone else, but I'm asking you because you've been there. You've worn the jersey. The mental attitude and the mental effect of this. How much does that affect the players?
A lot. It can't fail to. And if it was if I was Leo or I was one of those players, I'd be personally shutting down all distractions or wanting the coach to encourage us to do that and sort of throw a blanket and have over the squad and have a siege mentality. Don't read the papers, don't look at Facebook, don't look at anything. It's all inwardly focused on us and the performance, right? And I think if they do that, and they've got some seasoned campaigners there and some guys that are, that have been around a long time that will want to finish out this season and potentially their careers with lifting some silverware. So then it's, while there are some younger players finding their feet, overall it's a very experienced squad. So they've been through some of this either at provincial or international or previously in schools or whatever at different levels. So I'm sure that's one of the messages that's coming through over the next couple of weeks.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Justin. Mike Reedy, your thoughts on the Leinster's loss to Northampton, and they haven't really recovered yet from that.
It does look like that is the case, by the way, that they haven't recovered from it. It's a bit shocking in a way, because Leinster have a pretty decent record over the season as a whole. I think they've played 23 matches and won 20 of them. So, it's a pretty decent overall record. But there's zero doubt about it that performance against Scarlets was well substandard by Leinster standards, massively. and it needs to be a hell of a lot better, like a hell of a lot better to Glasgow are going to be coming buzzing, you know, and I know like Leinster done a number on them in the Champions Cup.
Well, we beat them twice.
Yeah, but Tui Pilato is now in the equation, and he is a massive difference. Massive. He brings a complete different set of challenges for Leinster. I think it's down. I think it's down to the coaches now to lift them. By the way, the players themselves should probably be able to. There's enough experience in there, but the coaches have a duty now. By the way, to lift, get them ready properly and get their mental. There was somebody talking about having a psychology coach or whatever that involved in Leinster.
A sports psychologist. They don't have one.
Yeah.
But they do apparently have one, and there was that guy that was working with Ireland as well, and he's done all sorts of psychology with different sports, Irish sports, and he's like, I think there is a psychological issue there because the players you don't become a bad player like that quickly, and I think the Northampton was a serious blow because everybody thought this, like the supporters included, and when we all did, lads, let's be honest, we all thought that they were going to beat Northampton. We did. I genuinely couldn't see anything else on beating Northampton, and that was a massive blow. And I do think, like psychologically, that's hit them, you know. And there is the performance against. There's more the performance than the result against Scarlets. The result is fine, but the actual performance wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So
no, I totally agree with you, Mike.
I genuinely hope, by the way, that they can lift themselves for Glasgow at the weekend, and I think they probably will. You know, they should do.
Yeah. Come here. I meant to ask you, how's the hip?
The hip's good. I'm
Shakira.
still using one.
We don't need to see it. We just want to know how it is.
I'm using one crutch still, but.
Oh, good man. Fair play to you. All right, Dara Weston. Leinster's lost to Northampton, as I've asked Justin and Mike. Hangover.
To be honest, I think, and it kind of pains me, I think we were complacent going into that game. I mean, Cian Healy, I have a lot of love for Cian Healy, Turf man.
That's what Rob Henderson said.
Servant to the game, but I think Porter should have started and Cian should have finished out.
Yeah.
Geordie Barrett not coming on for 50 minutes. Like, Geordie has just been magical for us. So I think in one way, possibly the coaches had one eye on the next match, and they were like, "Oh, we'll try and keep players fresh, you know, whatever." The other thing I think as well was, and like everybody said it afterwards, it was fairly clear that Northampton had reading of the whole rush defense and the Nina Bar system, and we know Mike loves to talk about, you know, how South African systems don't really work sometimes unless you have big 6'7" feckers. So, and then I think the Scarlets game, you know, I think they'd also kind of seen the system because we basically played the same system. I'm not sure why Ringrose wasn't playing.
He's got an injury, I think, hasn't he?
Has he picked up a knock? Okay, fair enough. But yeah, again, I think there was a bit of shell shock from the Northampton result going into the Scarlets game. And obviously, like, just doubt and, you know, self-doubt. And I'd imagine the players were just really down about it because they wanted that fifth star. You know, they wanted to get that monkey off their back. You know, and I think, you know, they could have been confident going into the game thinking, listen, we have a good shot at actually winning this game. But
sorry,
yeah,
a second, Dara. Do you think there was complacency because they were playing Scarlets? If they had picked any of the other 8, the other 7 teams,
no, I think there was complacency in the Northampton game.
Yeah,
like,
but even going into play against Scarlets, do you think there was complacency in that game as well?
Well, yes, Nyman didn't start, I think, in the Scarlets game. Sure, he didn't. But Leo said after the Northampton game, from now on, we will play our strongest squad every match. until the end of the season, because every game is a knockout game.
Yeah,
you know.
It is, yeah, basically.
So I would hope there was no complacency in that. I think there may have been a bit of shell shock from it. But you know, at the same time, look, you know, sometimes it's what you need. You know, I wasn't overly happy that we'd had, you know, cricket scores against teams prior to Northampton, because like you want the team to be challenged and to you know, not get any kind of complacency mentally. You know, you want them to be like, Jesus, that was a tough game, and that was a tough game. And, you know, like, you know, if you put 80 points to nil against a team, what realistically, what do you look at the video analysis on a Monday morning?
Yeah.
You know, well, you were 5 meters off there now, and you could have scored that try instead of the guy inside you scoring it. You know, there's not a lot to pick apart in it. So
yeah, it does no one any use.
Yeah.
Well, it clearly didn't do them any good anyway, because then they came up against a team that wanted to play and were capable of playing, and we all know the result of that.
True. Okay,
look, onwards and upwards for Saturday.
There you go. Peter Martin, your thoughts on what I've asked Justin, Mike, and Dara, the mindset, I suppose, after Leinster's loss to Northampton, and then the very lackluster performance against Scarlets. Do you think it's weighing on them?
Oh, 100%. I think I think, you know, Justin has nailed it as regards like there's you know, it's on the coaches now. My question is that, you know, obviously with the number of high profile losses and finals over the last few years, how does the message change after each of those losses? My question, like, what different does Leo and the other coaches say to the players? That is what like, you know, the saying is you either win or you learn. And the learnings are, we know what the learnings are. We've discussed them many times over the last period of time, you know, on here when you know, on the show after the final or whatever. But like, there comes a point where it's like the thought that maybe the tank is empty. What the fuck else can kind of Leo and, you know, because the players are looking at them. The players are, and Justin, jump in, and you're the guy who's played the top level. A lot of those guys would have obviously played their part in the game, and they're looking at themselves, I suppose, because there's an individual part to the task as well as a team part, and they're looking at themselves possibly and saying, well, I've scored myself 9 out of 10 in my personal task in the job, and maybe it's a 7 and an 8 for the overall team perspective. Like, there must become a point where the trust, because that's where all the great play comes from, is trusting that a player is going to get to the outside if there's going to be a pass going to be made to get somebody on the wing, or there's someone there for that inside pop ball, or whatever the case may be. Like, obviously, this is what I think breaks down, and this is why you see teams going into their shell, is because they stop trusting each other. How does Leo and Nienaber and all these other guys turn around and say, okay, let's change the message slightly, but it's still the overall team, that they're still top players? They have, like, it becomes harder and harder for the coach to say, trust the process. I think that's where I'm coming from, and that's where I think you see that. I think I saw that in that performance against the Scarlets. Like, when the Scarlets got to the edges of the pitch, they put the serious pump under Leinster. Leinster are playing a more narrow style of attack, and a narrow style. They're just playing narrow, full stop. It's more north-south rugby than east-west. And Scarlets, let's get to the edges as soon as we can. Put a bit of pace on there. Make sure our strike runners are out there. Our threats are out wide. Get away from the traffic, where Leinster want to create the bish bash bosh, you know, where the pressure comes on, where the rush defense is at its most effective. And like Scarlets, you saw the tries. They what was it? Johnny Williams got the last try to make it 32-21. like that came from the 13 channel. That came from a very outside break where the game went very, very loose. It really didn't suit Leinster. So it's just my question is, what do the coaches keep saying? Because they have to be running out of ideas.
Justin?
Yeah, I mean, you pose a very, very good question, and I would say, if we're at the end of 1 week, and God willing, they'll beat Glasgow at the weekend and head into the last week of the season. So I would say if we go back post Northampton, and I'm quite sure this has been part of the equation, and hopefully it is continuing. You're not going to radically change the side at the end of the season. Right, players are fatigued. You can't outwork the problem. What you can do is freshen them up and build confidence. And that's why I say throw the blanket over them, siege mentality. I would lessen the minutes on the training paddock. I would keep it upbeat and very, very precise, because the reality of it is that's an incredibly talented squad. And they've got all the tools in the box and have shown it over the course of the season in bits and pieces that they can beat any of the sides on their day, right? So they have the tools. So you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. I would say freshening them up, keeping the minutes at a minimum, and working on the mental side of the game where they're feeling fresh, they're feeling upbeat, and they're ready to perform come Saturday is the key to them doing well. Being on top of the ground. Does that make sense?
Justin, how important is the headspace on game day?
100%. As I said, I mean, that's a talented squad with a lot of experience, to lesser or greater extent, some experienced coaches, knows how to win and have performed this season, right? So, all right, I'm sure, for whatever reason they didn't perform to the best of their ability against Northampton. Northampton is still a good side, and they had a good run in the European Cup, and sometimes that happens. But they've got all the tools to solve the problem this coming Saturday, should they be fresh and mentally up for the task, right? And I'm quite sure that that's been a focus.
All right. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on, Mike Reedy. Another bit of news that happened this week was Stuart Lancaster appointed coach of Connacht. Is this going to solve Connacht's consistency woes?
Who are you asking this to?
You, Mike.
Oh, me. Sorry, I missed. No, my screen went off there for a sec.
Yeah, I think you're off there for a few seconds.
I hope so. I really hope so. I mean, I think Stuart Lancaster is a real deal, and I know all you Leinster fans would love to have had him back. And being honest with you, I'm a Leinster fan as well as all the other. I would have been. No,
you're not a bloody Leinster fan. You're a bloody Munster.
Fucking am. I am. If they got rid of Nienaber, by the way, if they brought him instead of Nienaber, by the way, I'd be a happy man.
Wait, I have some news for you on that, Mike. Wait till I tell you.
But anyway, Lancaster going to Connacht. It can only be a good thing for Connacht, lads. He's a very, very good, and he likes living in Ireland, likes working in Ireland. He likes the mentality, and he. I mean, I've seen his wee interview, and he likes all the full package, and I think he knows he made a bit of it wasn't a mistake. You got to try yourself out in a different situation. Going to France, it's a completely different ball game. It's everything about the game is different. It's like going to play, like to manage in South Africa or New Zealand or something like that. But Stuart Lancaster is a very, very good coach, and I think, Connacht have a pretty decent squad of players. They have a nice, not a big squad, but good players in every position. So I think he'll get the best out of them, and they can only get better.
I think they need a few new signings. Anyway,
they do. Okay. They definitely do. They need strength in depth, but that financially they're probably not in the position to improve that.
No,
but if he can get the best of what they've got.
Well, fair enough. Yes, absolutely. Bev Anne-Marie Burke. I think it will be amazing for Connacht. I'm not going to lie. I'm hoping Connacht cause great upset over the next coming seasons. Bev, I hope they don't. Una McGowan, me too, Mike. Oh, look, someone's agreeing with you, Mike. Una agrees with you. There you go.
Hold on now, is that hashtag me too or me too?
I
What have you been up to, Mike?
I've no idea. Justin, Lancaster to Connacht. Now, listen, we've said this before that Rob Henderson said it last week. Various other people have said it in the past, and it's probably similar with Ulster. That consistency, Peter Martin, I think you're an advocate of this as well. Consistency with those two teams, particularly, was probably not their downfall, but their failing, put it that way. Justin, Lancaster to Connacht. Lancaster brings an enormous wealth of knowledge, rugby information, experience, and all that. Is this going to go probably some way to alleviate the consistency issues that Connacht have? Justin?
I think it's a fantastic sign in, and we talked about this in a little bit when I was last on the show about him expressing an interest in coming to Ireland, and we all hoped that he would come back in some capacity. So I'm glad to see he's going to be in the Irish system, right? And if we're looking as we all want Ireland, the national team, to succeed, right? And for that to give it the best possible chance, we need all the provinces to be as successful as possible. And bringing in someone who's a proven commodity in Irish rugby and a serious operator on a world level to one of the provinces is fantastic. And I think it'll do very well. To answer your question in terms of consistency, well, what do we know about Stuart? He's a builder. He's got a proven pedigree in developing players and building culture and improving things. And I think all of those things are going to be well received in Connacht. And as I said, they've got some talented players. They've had some good results, but they have lacked some consistency. And I think he's that sort of steady personality with the great kudos and a great rugby mind that I'm very hopeful that he can do as well as I think we all think he can do.
Any player, Justin, I've seen interviewed, and the last one I saw interviewed, he was on Off the Ball, that horrendous rugby show, was James Tracy, who was coached by Lancaster, and he said every time you talk to Stuart, you learn something new. Yeah, and I think that is a great nugget of how Stuart works.
100%, and while not quite like for like in terms of ethos or skill set, but
like when we have Justin on the panel.
The what? Sorry.
It's like when we have you on the panel, Justin, we learn something as well.
There you go. That's very true, yes.
Not a hint of sarcasm. But
no, I'm serious. Bert learns something from everybody, but the rest
every day is
a school day. Thank you for the compliment. But I look at the success that Pat Lam had there, when he was running Connacht, and they did very well there. Now it's not quite like for like; they're slightly different operators, but Pat builds a culture. He's technically astute. He's got has a good rugby mind on him, and I think, as I say, not like for like, but Stuart has that weight of knowledge and depth of understanding of the game, and a very amenable communication style. And I think he's been proven in Ireland, and again, he didn't succeed in France, and there are many reasons for that. I wouldn't take that as a negative. Sometimes you're just not a right fit for a club or a group of players, or the timing's wrong or whatever. Right? That doesn't slight his reputation international name, but we know from his time in Leinster what he can do, how well he was thought of, and I think I think it would be very, very good for Irish rugby.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, Justin. Peter Martin, Lancaster to Connacht. Is he going to solve all their issues?
Well, I think it's a little bit shit or bust, but I do think it's going to work. Like Justin said it all, he's like his style of communication is, he's one of the great communicators. He seems to be he's a fantastic individual as a human being as much as anything else. I think towards the end of his tenure with Leinster, he did a coaching session with junior coaches. Basically, it was you could turn up. It was almost like something, I can't remember the exact detail of it, but it was very much driven by him, as in something he wanted to do to give back to the province. And I think he gave an evening of about 2 hours where he did a Q&A session with club coaches and underage coaches and the whole lot. That's the kind of stuff where he's giving back to the game in a real way. That is a real culture thing. He's not a mercenary. He's giving more than he's giving of himself as much as it's his job. I do think the fact as well that I suppose I think Connacht as well aspired a little bit to be a little bit like a diet version of Leinster at times over the last number of years, trying to basically play a very attacking style, trying to run it almost, not so much run it from everywhere, but basically try and, Leinster-like patterns in their style of play. Now, that obviously changed when Pete Wilkins came along. I think things changed significantly, and I think the upset was there wasn't a consistency, I think, with between the different the different coaches were there, and there was a bit of a disruption, what have you. But I do think that Lancaster he will succeed. He'll certainly, with the younger players, and the age profile of that Connacht squad has dropped significantly. He's at that stage where the Connacht players who are there, the younger guys are coming through, and indeed some of the older guys, they will have heard on the grapevine, from the Leinster guys who've come across over the last couple of seasons, that how much they would have learned from Lancaster. So he'll have an absolute captive audience from these guys. They'll know about the reputation. Let's see what this is like. So, there'll be, you'll hear a pin drop kind of stuff, on his sessions when he gets involved in the players and his infamous Tuesday sessions. There'll be players who'll be just taking it all in. So I don't think it'll be a problem for him.
All right. Okay. Sorry. I just have to say, mea culpa. I completely forgot to send James Grennan an invite to join us.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Sorry, James Grennan. My apologies. Sorry, I forgot to send you an invite.
Grennan's comforted himself with a red breast at the moment.
Well, sorry, James. My apologies.
And some bad jokes.
And some bad jokes. Okay, Dara Weston, Lancaster to Connacht.
Yeah, Tuesdays are back, baby. Look, I hope he does great. Part of me is a little jealous that he didn't come to Leinster. But look, I'm happy he's with one of the provinces. One of the particularly since, according to LinkedIn, Jack Nienaber is open to work and looking for a head coach role.
Yeah, you were saying that.
And it's actually on his LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
And anybody who can spell his surname can find him on LinkedIn. He's looking for a head coach role, and he's looking for Cape Town, Western Cape, South Africa. So he's contracted until the end of next season. So I don't know whether he thought maybe Stu was coming back and he was already starting to look, or I'm sure there's somebody in Leinster watching this. They can probably tell
or maybe he just hasn't updated his LinkedIn profile.
No, he has, because it shows he's with Leinster. So maybe whoever is watching from Leinster can actually have a word with Jack and say, listen, will you take down that open to work thing off your LinkedIn, because you're actually contracted with us until the end of next season.
or else just go.
Well, yeah, all right, yeah, you love that, wouldn't you?
He's on
Obviously,
half a
I would.
million. I think he's on $500,000 a year, according to reports, Mike. So he wouldn't go for free. If he was to go, he'd be wanting money. So
okay. Okay, thanks, Dara. Bev Anne-Marie Burke, Peter Martin, he said his interview on Connacht Rugby YouTube channel that he's planning on meeting with grassroots coaches and having open training sessions with the team.
Good.
Okay.
There we go.
Megan Augusta, hashtag.
So Brendan turns up, and then they'll be closed training sessions after Brendan starts your roaring jokes.
Well, I know. Megan Augusta, hashtag justice for James Grennan. Sorry, James. My apologies. Okay. Very good. Gregor Galway, surely every fan will be happy within Ireland, re Lancaster. Yes. Okay. Una McGowan, hello all. Wow, Dara, you're giving me hope. Hope for what? What? For
maybe about Nienaber and his LinkedIn.
Yeah. Gregor Galway. Ulster might take it him, to be honest, we might need a new coach if Richie goes. I don't think Richie is going to go anywhere now, to be honest with you, Gregor.
But Gregor, looking at his LinkedIn post, if you click in on it, he wants to go back to Cape Town, Western Cape, South Africa. Very limited.
Okay.
So he obviously
Una has clarified. Sorry, Una has clarified. Nienaber going. Okay. Thanks, Una. Thanks for that. Okay. All right, gentlemen. We have about 3 minutes left.
Justin, if he does go, are you available to come back to Dublin for a while?
That's beyond my pay grade, but thank you for thinking of me.
Oh, I'm sure actually, listen, the IRFU would pay you less if you wanted. Don't worry about that.
No, I was actually intrigued. You just reminded me of something because I was reading something about you, Justin. What your coaching career in America? What teams did you coach in America?
I came initially across to coach Seattle for 6 months, and then I got picked up by or invited in by the national team to help them qualify for the World Cup, and took them through the World Cup while coaching Seattle, and then just after the World Cup, got in MLR was. Being discussed and talked about, and got recruited to build the franchise down in Houston.
And are you still involved in
No. I've moved over, more business focused.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. All right, gentlemen. Sorry, there's just more comments coming in here. Oh my God. Gregor Galway. Can't blame him. Nice part, Cape Town. Okay. Sean Fleming. Hello, Sean. Expectations will be so high in this appointment. Baby steps, but great to see him back in Irish rugby. I think that's a common kind of theme, Sean, that we're seeing. Who's Gregor Go? Alan Clark, now head coach at Seawolves. Okay. Una McGann, would Nienaber have to be paid the rest of his contract if he decides to go?
It's only if his contract terminated, he'd have to pay it out. If he left on his own, he'd get zip.
He might have to fucking...
He'd just resign, same as any of us would from our jobs.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, now, gentlemen, let's have a look. We are now on the hour mark. Let's just have a quick word about the upcoming weekend's semi-finals. Mike Reedy, I'll come to you first. Justin, I'll leave you for last on this, for the last voice, because you're our guest, so I'll leave you to last on this. Mike Reedy, Leinster, as we discussed earlier, but not directly, Leinster are playing Glasgow in the Aviva. Unfortunately, I'm not going to it. But who do you think is going to win, lose, or draw? Like,
Jesus, I'm not going to lie. I'm concerned. However, I'm just hopeful that Leinster are going to fucking up their game massively. They will have to. If they do, they have the players to beat Glasgow. But if they're under par, they're going to get beat. It's a hard one for me to call. I'm going to go for Leinster.
No, you have to call it. You have to call it. You can't be.
I'm calling Leinster. Then I'm calling Leinster. Irish team to have to win. It's fucking. Okay. It's imperative for Irish rugby that they win. To be honest.
All right. Okay. Okay, and the second one, no Irish teams involved, but I just want to hear your thoughts on it. Bulls are playing the Sharks.
I think the Bulls will beat the Sharks. I hope they do anyway.
Really? Why?
Yeah, because I fucking don't like the Sharks. I think they're just a despicable outfit.
Oh God!
And I think the Loftus Versfield will they're hard to beat there.
Why don't you like the Sharks?
I just don't. I don't like some of their players. I don't like the way they behaved against Munster either. That was fucking wrong. It was wrong on all sorts of levels. But Munster created some of that for themselves as well. So, but it doesn't matter. I think the Bulls will win that.
There'll be high demand for Bulls shirts in Munster this weekend now.
I doubt it.
All right. Okay, Peter Martin. The first semi-final, Leinster entertaining Glasgow. Who is winning?
They need to up. Like Leinster need to up their game by about 20% at least. If they play
At least.
If it's a repeat performance of the Scarlets, they'll be beaten. That's it. It's simple as that. So it's a must-win game. I think we'll see. You know, they'll be looking to build their lead as the way it used to be years ago. You build your lead, you take your kicks, and the tries will come. And I think Leinster will go into that mode. I think they just need to get across the line. They don't need to be, trying to be all gung ho, kicking for corners and taking lineouts and all this kind of stuff. Just build a lead, create the pressure, build a lead, kick the goals, get to about 12-0 or 12-3 or something, and then we'll have a pop at a try and extend it out and obviously they have to do all the other parts of the game right, but that's the tactics they need to go with.
Take their points, Pete.
Take your points when they get them, yeah. So look, Leinster to win because they have to. In the other game, I agree with Mike. The Bulls to take the Sharks.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Jara Weston. Leinster entertaining Glasgow in the Aviva.
So I'll be arriving into Dublin Airport jet lagged and possibly slightly drunk about 2.5 hours before the match and heading to the Aviva. So yeah, Leinster, I think I'm waiting to see the team sheet because I think if we're not starting our strongest players,
we will be.
That's it. Well, yeah. We can't afford to be leaving anybody on the bench. We need to start strong, and the lads just need to really play high intensity. So I think it's going to be tight, but I think Leinster possibly by 7 to 10 points.
All right. Okay, and the second one, Dara, second semi-final, Bulls are entertaining Sharks.
I'm just going to say Bulls because I know Danny Brosnan likes Bulls. So.
No, it's Heifers.
I don't know anybody who likes Sharks.
It's Heifers. Okay.
You don't get Heifers without Bulls.
Yeah, well, all right. Okay, right. Okay. Let me just see. Sorry, Justin, before I come to you, Megan Augusta, Leinster, please, for the mother of Jesus, I'll be saying 100 Hail Marys and 100 Our Fathers. Okay. Thank you, Megan. Sean Fleming, Glasgow are going to go for this. Leinster will need to be the best on the day, even if above the best day. Yes, I would agree, Sean. Yes. Okay, Justin.
Leinster. Gregor has made a point there. The Sharks have beaten the Bulls twice this season.
They have, yeah.
Again, that's no, form is no
indication or
performance is no prediction of future performances.
Well, there you go. Okay. All right, Justin, last voice on the show. Leinster entertaining Glasgow. Who do you think is winning, losing, or drawing?
Well, I think obviously, Glasgow have hit a bit of form, so it's going to be a good game. But I'm back in Leinster. I think they've got, as we discussed earlier, all the experience. Hopefully they've shut off all the social media, not picked up a paper or turned the TV off all week and freshened up. And I think with the carrot of playing the final the week after in Dublin and finishing out some of the guys' careers, I think there's a lot to play for, a lot of experience within the group on the field and in the coaching staff, and I think they'll do it, and we'll see a much more rounded performance this weekend.
Can I just say you trigger something there, Justin? I mean, I'm always curious. My curiosity: how much do players actually read match reviews, social media, all that sort of stuff, and how much attention do they actually pay to it?
Well, obviously, like everything else, it depends on the individual, and how you react to it. I mean, it's always nice picking up a paper and reading something nice, and it's horrid when it's not very positive, right? But you've either got to not do it at all if you're affected, negatively by it, or not give a monkeys about it. I listened to probably some of the best advice I ever got from John Redmond, who was the head of PR for the Irish national team early on in my career, and he asked the squad, and we were going through a particularly rough spot at the time, and he said, he piled up a load of papers. He said, you respect this journalist, you respect this journalist, and you respect this journalist. And there was, we were all laughing and roaring, and it's like, no, he's a bollocks, basically, I mean, there's a few good ones out there, and there's a lot of ones that really don't know what they're talking about. And he said, so why are you all upset when they're writing something negative? If you don't care or don't respect their opinion, why let it affect you? So you can either not let it affect you, or don't bother reading it. So I would hope that the majority are not reading anything. They're not listening to podcasts. They're not looking at Facebook. They're not reading any papers. They are just closing down, blinkers on, tunnel vision, and just concentrating on themselves, recovery, preparation, and the task at hand, right? Because the week after doesn't matter if they don't win. So, and as I said, you've got so much experience on and off the field within that group. Again, it's not secret sauce; it's simple stuff. So I feel confident knowing the expertise that they've got within the group, that that will be standard fare for them.
Yeah. Why would you take criticism from someone you wouldn't go to for advice?
Well, exactly. You're having to allow that person into your head. So if if it's affecting you, then why bother? Why let it?
Oh, okay. Now, Justin, and the second semi-final, your thoughts on this, and we'll end it on this: Bulls versus the Sharks.
Well, I'm hoping the Bulls, and again, you've got two really positive factors for them. You've got to go up to altitude from the coast, right? That has an effect. And the second thing is, you had those extra minutes played last weekend, and all the emotional roller coaster with the kicking contest at the end. Those things all add up and deplete. From your energy levels, I feel the Bulls will edge it.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, that is all we have time for. My thanks to everyone watching, all your comments there, etc. We do this for you. As I say, it's as we all say, it's by the fans, for the fans. My thanks to Mike Reedy, Dara Weston in Chicago, Peter Martin, and of course our returning special guest. He's always welcome, always great to talk to. He writes really, really interesting and good articles for ruckthis.ie. If you log on there, you'll see Justin's writings. Always worth a read. Justin Fitzpatrick, thank you very much as well.
Thank you. Cheers.
And
thanks very much, guys.
Sorry, what? Spotify. Sorry, I keep forgetting Spotify. Matt Boland uploads the shows onto Spotify. We're also on YouTube. We're also on Ruck This, and we're also live in the group.
So if people can subscribe to the Mauls, Balls and Alls podcast on Spotify, you'll find it under podcasts. And then I think after you've listened to 2 or 3 shows, you'll be able to give us a 5-star rating if you wish to. And if you give us a 5-star rating and you meet Peter Burke in the Aviva, he'd buy you a pint of Dynamite.
I just might. There you go. Okay, gentlemen, listen, good night. Enjoy the rest of your evening. It's been a pleasure, and we will do it all again next week.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
All the best.